Hello, this is a quick walkthrough of my portfolio website project. This is not a tutorial. I will not be going through in depth detail about coding practices or how code works or how any technology works. I want to quickly run through every service and technology used in this project to give you the big picture. The application is built on React using Create React app, the standard file structure. All of the code will be provided on a GitHub repository with a link in the description. You can see that the repository is right here. For styling, I used SCSS, done basically everything from scratch. I did have certain components imported, such as the bar chart. I'm using React, I think it's called chart.js, and icons, the React icons library. So this is the portfolio website project. This is already live. Earlier it was on Next.js. The management of that got complicated with various node versions, so I moved back to React. Uh, Another difference between the previous version and this one is pulling all static information from a content management system. For that, I have used Sanity. Sanity is a headless CMS solution. Definitely recommend. Pretty cool with managing all of your uh, you know big content and things that you define like a database. So Sanity will provide its own local project platform. So you could it's a node based project using JavaScript. So it allows you to define all of this schema that you need for your project, and after all of these are imported into the main file for Sanity, it allows you to run a local studio. It's running at this a URL right now, which is here. Um, as you can see, these were all the defined schema from the code, and there you could see that I'm able to make records for each and every one of those objects. So these are instances of those, and it has a very friendly user interface. Allows you to create content and just maintain that in a form like this. This is really useful for someone like me who's like constantly losing files. I can't seem to keep all my pictures in the same place. So every time I have a new application, instead of running around to look for them, I could just now query the Sanity API to fetch all this information. There is also version control feature provided by Sanity, wherein if I was to make changes over here, if I was to move this here, something like that, it would save everything locally and then allow me to make a publish to the cloud based storage, so that this is reflecting in all of the API also. I've already filled all the forms for every schema that I had, so and that is being reflected live on the portfolio app. This is right now running on the local host, and I saved all of my Sanity objects also in a GitHub repository. So feel free to go here and see how Sanity can be configured. It's pretty simple, and it's also free for the most part. It has paid plans also, which provide features that might be an overkill for a personal project like a portfolio or something. But features were really cool. You could add members to your organization, allow collaboration with others on the same project in terms of content management, reviews, various versions for the same content record, all the jazz. Uh, the React app is hosted on Netlify. Netlify is another deployment solution. It's a deployment and hosting solution. Has a free plan also, the one that I'm using. It allows you to go into the dashboard, build a site, and most attractive thing that I find about Sanity is it allows you to link a GitHub repository or a repository for many of your preferred Git solution. Allows you to link a repository and listen to webhooks upon changes, and then initialize a build project. So over here, I haven't configured the Sanity project, a Netlify project to pull from this repository link right here and have provided certain build instructions. So as soon as there is a push coming from my code to GitHub, GitHub will send a webhook out and Netlify will listen to it. Netlify configures all of it by itself as soon as you add a repository. It will do the integration part of it, so there's no extra steps over there. You can see over here, yesterday there were certain pushes to the repository and it automatically pushed, deployed, and published those versions. This one was not published coming from, uh, this was a manual publish because there was changes in the environment variables. Um, However, this does work if you push to the main repository, it will pull changes from there and deploy a brand new build to the URL. Using Sanity, I was really impressed by the fact that my deployment is now less than a minute because the pull does not download heavy asset files like pictures or JSON files that might have data. It pulls directly from the Sanity API, and this is really useful because Sanity Netlify will charge you by build minutes. So if I was to go to the main dashboard, it will tell me how much usage has been in terms of builds. At 300 it caps it, which means I cannot build anymore for the month. There is a usage period allotted to your account. So that was the architecture for the front end along with the CMS. For there is a backend element to this. If you go to the website and you see at the end there is a form over here, when you fill the form out, the messages go to a, they make a post call to an API URL, and the API URL in turn is has its own backend logic to manage. So I use Python to build a handler for incoming messages. There is a Slack connector and there is a Dynamo DB collector. So for the database for this project, I'm using AWS Dynamo DB. It's managed NoSQL service. It has worked out great so far. There has been very little configuration required over there. I just had to create a table over here, provide the partition key and the sort key. These are required settings by AWS, and once they have been described, um, I can use Boto3 to connect to the table. I built some standard functions for accessing the uh, table and its records, maybe update or delete things as well. And I also built a Slack connector which just sends a message to a connector URL that pushes to a Slack channel. So the logic goes like, once I get a message, it will perform certain validation functions on top of the incoming message of the body of the request. And if validation passes, it will insert the record in DynamoDB and send a message to Slack with that, like after a particular string manipulation routine. This code is also present on GitHub, and I have also configured a CD pipeline for this. So as soon as I push something to GitHub with changes in that function, there is a code build object. AWS CodeBuild is another developer service provided by AWS. It would listen to these webhooks, make a code change. I mean, pull the new code and have its own build criteria. Once it is built, it will do the post build stuff, which is in this case push all the code, push the deployment package to AWS Lambda. So that's the platform I'm using for invoking all of those Python, all of that Python code. And after the code build is successful, there is a build spec file within this project that takes care of creating the deployment package, uploading to S3, updating the Lambda code using the package uploaded to S3, and then removing the package also. So it does the cleanup part as well. Post that, if you go to Lambda, it will say, okay, Code's too big to show in inline coding editing, but it is still invocable. Had a test object created which mocks the incoming data structure, and that's useful for testing. CloudWatch was great, was able to debug processes properly. And something to keep in mind is in the general configuration for Lambda, it is advised to adjust the timeout period according to how long you think the code might take. I have, for safe side, have put it as 1 minute, but it really does not take any more than 5 seconds for every call. Uh, Messages coming from the front end go to this service called API Gateway. So API Gateway is another AWS provided configurable service that just has HTTP rules. And what I have over here is for the provided URL by AWS for this API project, I have a resource called slash message. If there is a post call coming to that resource, it it handles that by performing this integration configuration. It doesn't. I have already configured this, but I don't see any more details provided over here. But what it does is, upon getting that information from the front end, it will transform that request body to this mock object shown before, and then put that as a event object in. Okay, I don't have the code right now. It will push that as an event argument to the Lambda handler function that's running over here. Upon success, it will have an entry put into API into the Dynamo DB tables, and also send a message to me on Slack over here in this channel in this format. So that's the backend architecture of it. The API gateway is essentially the integration stage between the front end and the backend. Backend being handled by Lambda and DynamoDB, and the CD part of it is handled by Netlify for the front end and AWS CodeBuild for the backend. For a live demo, could go to this and enter a name. I'm gonna send myself a message because that's what people do. I'm gonna use my work email, and hey, how is it going? Nice website. I'm gonna say send. Upon the message being sent, I got that notification on my front end saying message received, and over here you could see that I received a message on Slack also. If I open that channel, there you go, the Slack message over here that I just sent. And in if I go back to DynamoDB and go to explore table items, you'll see that there's two messages over here. Message number one received just now. There is a created at field that I am manually generating. It tells me what time it was created at in UTC, and that's it. So this application went from being just a React app to a full stack application with all of these various services being employed. Yeah, thanks for watching. Please let me know if you have any questions.